Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. I'm absolutely thrilled to have you here today because honestly, we're about to explore a truly profound intersection of ideas. We're looking at the deep, historical connection between one of the world's most ancient Eastern philosophies and a super dynamic, modern engine of education. It's a fascinating journey of how historical wisdom isn't just sitting in a museum somewhere, it's actively being studied, protected, and applied right now.
Okay, let's dive into this. It's kind of the ultimate question we need to be asking ourselves right now. Can a philosophy born literally 2.5 millennia ago actually give us the tools to solve our complex modern global crises? Well, as you'll see today, the scholars and students at Magadh University absolutely believe it can. And honestly, the way they're applying these ancient teachings to our modern world, it's nothing short of remarkable. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to start with the cradle of Buddhism, then look at the building of Magadh University. After that, we'll explore where East meets West, dive into some modern solutions, and finally wrap up with the global future of Buddhism.
All right, Section 1, the cradle of Buddhism and the deeply historic land of Magadha.
You really can't separate this philosophy from the actual physical soil of Bihar, India. I mean, think about it. Way back in the 6th century BCE, you have the Buddha attaining enlightenment right there under the Bodhi tree. Fast forward a bit to the 2nd century BC, and these philosophical doctrines have become deeply, deeply rooted in the region. Then skip all the way ahead to 1962 AD, and boom, we see the founding of Magadh University. So you've got this land literally transforming from an ancient site of spiritual awakening into a modern academic engine designed to preserve that exact legacy.
But, history is full of weird ironies. Buddhism is actually the only great religion of Indian origin to expand massively westward and globally. Yet, along the way, it somehow lost its verbal link to its mother language, classical Sanskrit. Devoid of political backing for centuries, it ironically became known as the lost religion of India. It was almost totally overshadowed right in the very birthplace of its founder. Crazy, right?
Let's move on to Section 2, Building Magadh University, the modern custodians of this ancient wisdom.
And this brilliantly illustrates what they built. Established in 1962, this institution wasn't just set up to quietly hand out degrees. No, they built it on a massive scale. 460. That is the number of acres making up Magadh University's sprawling, lush green campus. It's basically a massive physical sanctuary totally dedicated to protecting a profound legacy. What started as just 5 initial colleges has grown into this absolute powerhouse of an educational hub.
And to put that academic footprint into perspective, check this out. The university now boasts 160 affiliated colleges. Through this incredibly massive network, they're spreading knowledge and opening up higher education to youth across 5 entire districts in Bihar. They aren't just hoarding this knowledge. They're actively democratizing access to education and philosophy on a scale that is just really, really impressive. But hey, it isn't just about the sheer numbers. It's about what the students actually experience. The university runs these annual guided pilgrimages that are frankly deeply transformative. Just imagine this for a second. Students plunging into the clear, freezing, chilly waters of Nala Hill. Imagine them bringing back and just cherishing these copies of the Dhammapada. Picture them standing right there in the ruins of Nalanda, literally feeling 55 centuries of history rushing back to glory. These aren't your typical run-of-the-mill field trips. These are visceral, sensory experiences that inspire these students to make entirely new, meaningful resolutions in their own lives. Section 3, East meets West, and a beautiful synthesis of philosophy. Now, what's really interesting about this is how they actively analyze this stark contrast between global philosophies. Think about it. Since the 18th century, Western philosophy has often viewed man as the master of nature, like we're totally in charge. Buddhist philosophy, on the other hand, takes a much more holistic, metaphysical approach. It views humans as a distinct yet totally integrated part of nature itself. It's a fundamentally different lens for looking at our place in the universe. And because of that holistic view, scholars at the university treat Buddhist studies as a true gift for modern man. The students actually use this framework to bridge major cultural divides. They even explore deep theological concepts, things like creation and nothingness, to foster this highly respectful, incredibly modern dialogue between Christian and Buddhist faiths. It's not just ancient history, it's an active, living bridge connecting entirely different belief systems. Moving into Section 4, Ancient Wisdom, Modern Solutions, and Real-World Practical Applications. So let's look at how this highly abstract stuff actually gets put into practice. Take the concept of anatta. It's the Buddhist concept of no self. Now, sure, that sounds super metaphysical and out there, but it immediately translates to something very practical: interdependence. If we aren't just isolated individual selves, it means we are completely and totally interconnected with our environment. And that ancient idea? It's actively being used today as a rock-solid foundation for modern environmental ethics. So the crucial point is how anatta naturally links to our next concept, anicca. Anicca is the Buddhist concept of impermanence. Think about it. If everything is interconnected and everything is constantly subject to change, well, our actions are going to have profound, rippling consequences. Anicca is used to argue for urgent, highly sustainable environmental actions because it forces us to recognize just how incredibly fragile our current environmental balance really is. All of this naturally leads to a real-world clash in how we even measure success. On one hand, you have Western economics, which largely relies on gross national product, right? It's all about measuring pure material output. But Buddhist-inspired ethics push back hard against that. They advocate instead for metrics like gross national happiness. It's about actively choosing sustainable world citizenship over this cycle of endless material consumption. Let's move on and see how this builds into actual community action. Magadh University doesn't just sit around teaching compassion in a classroom. They literally mandate it. Students partner with the Church of North India, stepping completely across religious lines to support AIDS-struck youths. They help with rehabilitation and eventually reintegrate them back into the workforce. This is what it looks like when compassion is pulled right off the page and put directly into the streets. It's just phenomenal. All right, our final section, Section 5, the global future of Buddhism and fostering global citizenship. Now, as our world continues to globalize, this field definitely faces some real hurdles. First off, it has to overcome deeply ingrained cultural biases, and it really needs to avoid the trap of getting bogged down in purely academic arguments over, pedantic semantics. There is just such an urgent need right now to foster genuine interfaith dialogue. We need to be creating triangulated literature that actively bridges the East and the West, ultimately bringing a much-needed humane, moral awakening to our very complex world. Which leaves us with this final, truly profound question to consider. As our world becomes more globalized, more frantic, and honestly more environmentally and socially challenged, will we increasingly look to the ancient East to find our modern moral compass? The work being done right now at Magadh University strongly suggests that the wisdom of the past might just be the exact key we need for our future. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.